Hi, today a new interview with Morten Hake in the series of Success Crisis New Success. An amazing story with him, and you will know how he will have his way of being successful, which is to set goals and going towards things, especially towards girls. He had an intense 6 months of dating and sharing with his friends how to make success like this, and then how he transformed his idea of success. Now it's much more inspired, much more productive, and I cannot tell you more without explaining whole concept, but it's pretty exciting. Please share this podcast, subscribe on iTunes or on my website benoitfoucher.com, and share with your friends. It's pretty cool. It's the place to be when we want to be successful. Talk to you soon. Bye. All right. Today with Morten Hake. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Morten, you're a lifestyle coach, entrepreneur online. You've been known for the summit you were doing every year. That I don't remember the name, the Morten Hake Summit, which was about the helping men, women with sexuality, dating, and things like that. And quite a number of videos online that I checked. It's awesome. A lot of good resources. I recommend. And know your. I know you're a lifestyle coach and you're an entrepreneur and you help people in their life. That's pretty cool.
Thank you for getting the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, as you know, we start every time with a story, the story of yours with your success and what you learned from not success, and then a new way of being successful. So if you could start with your sharing, that would be cool. And then we will flow, which is one of the things you're pretty keen to do as well, the flow. So
Thank you. This is exciting. You gave me that theme and I was like, I actually have a similar story in my life, really, really real and similar story in my life. That's like, it was me. Well, I'll tell the story. So like, probably 7 years ago, I dropped out of, or 6 years ago, I don't remember. I dropped out of college or university. It's like a school in Norway. I was studying film science. The only thing I knew is that I wanted to work with people and I wanted to travel. But I didn't know what to do, so I went to some kind of counselor, and she was like, "Okay, try out doing, film photography." And I've always been interested in film. I love the media, and the art. So it's like, okay, let's do that. But it was just, film science. We were studying history. We were just watching a lot of movies all day, every day, which was fun. But it was more like I wanted to be creative. I wanted to create. Simply, and then so I and at that time I was like trying to become better with women. I was like, I just discovered the game, and I was like in my little, in my student dorm room, trying, to hide. Me and my friend was hiding that we were like trying to pick up chicks. So we were like, that was actually where it all started. It was like, I remember my friend, he was the first guy to, have the balls to actually go up to two girls and talk to them for the first time. And we were all like, yeah, you're the hero in the group. And like, you go, oh, that was so sick. It's like so crazy for us. And at the time I got so like interested in that. And I just felt alive when trying to become better with women and analyzing it, talking to new people. We got a lot of new friends and contacts. And we were like always like training our social muscle kind of. At the same time, it was, when I look back at it, I go like, oh my God, I get embarrassed. But at
Mm.
the time, it was, that was it. So,
It's
so
okay.
we,
I had the same kind of period so far. So
yeah, it's fun. And
yeah.
then there was like this dating guru guy who had a seminar in Oslo, the capital of Norway, where I'm from,
Mm.
and we just like we drove down, this like 2.5 hours just to be at this seminar for just like an hour or two, and he was so like motivating and engaged, and I got so inspired sitting there. And he then pitched. He was like very like Tony Robbins, it's a friend of mine now, and he's like very always like boom, boom, take action, and
Mm.
get out there and take massive action, and then speed of implementation, and set your goals exactly like this and this and this, and then run like a motherfucker and boom,
Mm.
reach your goals,
Mm.
which was perfect for me back then because apparently I got super inspired to join his like 6 month long like dating coaching program.
Mm.
So what happened is I moved to Oslo with 5 other dudes in a big apartment, paid a lot of money, sold my television, and borrowed money from my dad and everything to be a part of this. And literally for 6 months, this sounds like a joke, but for 6 months we were hitting on girls every day,
Mm.
all day,
Wow.
except when I was working part-time sales job 3 evenings a week. Other than that, it was all girls, like all day, every day. And when we weren't out hitting on girls, we were in analyzing our own hitting on girls. It was crazy, like crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but in that period, I started blogging, and there was like a magazine who picked up on this because it's so like so different than anything else. So they wrote like a 6-page article about us, and while I was blogging, people started reading my blog. There was like these underground forums where people were finding my blog. So after a while, people started asking me for questions. I was like, I have no idea. I'm just like a learning boy myself. But I started, meeting people and being in conversations and doing what I thought was good advice.
Mm. Mm.
And then that build that added up, and I got more and more interested in personal development, success. I remember reading, the standard. I remember reading, the magic of thinking big, and like, which one was I don't remember now. Like the most famous personal development book ever. I just remember the Norwegian title. Rikdommens Altesett var det. All right. Anyways, Think and Grow Rich, I think. Yeah.
Mm.
I
Napoleon
read
Hill.
those books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read all those books, and got interested in all that, and mental peak performance and inner game and all that,
Mm.
and that became more and more my thing. And while actually working on myself, I had insights here and there, and I grew, and I had good. I realized at a point that I could have good connection with women without playing a game. So that was huge to me. Both me and my colleague Knut Johansen, we agreed upon not trying that much. And we had been trying, like me and Knut, we had been trying more than anyone else, to become better with women. For some reason, it sounds, crazy. But I don't know. I didn't feel that desperate either. It was just more like an
Mm.
inspired act. But throughout that time, it was first a coaching program in Oslo, and then I joined my mentor in Copenhagen to both like be like part-time facilitator and part-time student in,
Mm.
in Copenhagen. And then I branched off and started my own thing in Norway with Knut, and then we did that for a while. So it started off with like inspired action, but it became like a job kind of. And
Mm.
but in that period, we had that same insight that like doesn't need to be a game. Like men and women can connect, and without all of these gimmicks and all that. So we started a conference. And originally, because I had my blog, which is MortenHake.com, I wanted to make like a conference for my readers. So it started off with being MortenHake.com Summit for the readers, and that was the first year back in 2010, I think. There was like we worked our asses off to do that. We got speakers from all over the world, and basically arranged our first 2-day conference. And there was like 160 people there. We were like super happy about it. We lost a lot of money, but we started something and we created something and we did it, and that was super cool. And we recorded it all on DVDs, like we did the whole 9 yards, and that became like a kind of like not a trademark, but like a thing, something that we created and was actually attractive to people and speakers. And it's a perfect way of building network. Not only did we want to like help, we had a vision to like transform the dating community into something like where men and women are actually connecting, and it's way more mainstream. But it ended up actually we kind of like had we were like, now the dating community is completely different. I think the consciousness in the dating community has leveled up since that time, and maybe we've been a part of it, and so that's cool. And then it's the perfect way of like networking and meeting influential people and all that. And then so that became like an annual thing. We did that every year for 4 years. The last one was back in 2012 or 13. I'm confused. And then probably 13. And then at the last conference I invited Jamie Smart to speak there, because Jamie Smart is like, he had been doing like he had the biggest NLP product company in the world. He has been working with NLP for like 13 years, and he was the man, and I just like, okay, bam, NLP. I know a lot about NLP, and to me it was the closest thing to something that worked, if that makes sense. So I was like,
it's a set of communication tools and helping people to develop themselves.
And it's like, so I wanted him to speak there and put him on, I think it last on a Saturday or something. So it was like he was the keynote speaker. I remember him and Steve Pavlina. So when I put him on, I thought he was going to talk about NLP, but when he came on, he actually talked about something different. And I was like, where's all the NLP? But I noticed like when he was talking that I didn't necessarily understand what he talked about. I didn't understand. It sounded really simple, and I felt good when he said it. But I was like, well, it isn't like, I was like, when I thought about it, I was more like, well, what did he really say? I don't know. Something very simple, He was just like, and then, but I felt it, I felt a new feeling. That's the point. I felt a new feeling, and I haven't felt that new feeling before. So once I felt a new feeling, or I felt, I just knew that, okay, I experienced something new. There's something new about this. There's something different about what he talks about. It's different from anything else in the personal development niche, like in all the books, everything. I've read everything. I've been on all the courses. I've spent all the money. I know, and it's all the same, just packed in a different box. But this wasn't. I just felt like it was something else. So I kind of like resonated with it without knowing what he was talking about.
Okay.
So after he was finished talking, and later at that conference we had a Q&A session where anyone could ask us anything, all the speakers. And then someone asked Jamie, because he heard that Knut, my colleague, he spoke. He had a great speech, and he talked a little bit about our story back in Copenhagen and us, and running around hitting on girls. At one point, we had like a task to talk to 50 girls every single day for like 6 months, and that adds up to like 9,000 girls or something, which is crazy. It makes no sense to me right now, but back then it did make sense to me.
Yeah.
And Knut, he did the same thing. So he was like, he talked about that story on stage, and there was like one of the participants, he got stuck on that thought. So he thought that he had to talk to 9,000 women in order to become good with women and then become happy.
Wow.
Which is just a misunderstanding, but he thought that. So he started asking at the Q&A session. He was like, what should I do? Should I talk to 9,000 women or should I not talk to 9,000 women? Which, he's asking a group of people that is not himself to get an advice about himself and his decision making, which you can never do. Nobody can ever know your choices better than you. I can't go inside you and go like, okay, you should do this and this. So that's why I give people very little advice. I try not to give people advice at all, actually. So he asked that question, and then Jamie said to this guy, he said, you know what? Actually, you already have the answer. The answer is like the sun, but you just have clouded thinking right now. So you can't see the sun because there's clouds in the way. But in you is the answer. So it's going to appear to you sooner or later. He said something like that, and I was just like, boom. And in that moment, I had an insight. I just knew. For some reason, when he said that, I knew that I was going to break up with at that time, my girlfriend. So now my ex-girlfriend. And it just rang true to me. It was just like, oh shit, apparently I'm going to do that. It was just true. And then, it's just a feeling, it just felt right in that moment. And I knew it was right, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's a cool story. And so basically I don't see it seems like the idea of success is in between the lines here. So first,
go ahead.
Yeah, first it seems like the idea of success was for you to be better with girls. And so you did this course in intense daily routine of talking with.
It's crazy, yeah.
And why did you do that?
Well, I thought that I could become happy once I achieved something outside of my, once I achieved something. It was just a simple, tiny misunderstanding. Like I thought, like we are born with an innate happiness or innate well-being or innate just like enjoyment, naturalness. We're born with a natural state of resourcefulness. And somewhere along the way, we think that state is to be achieved from somewhere outside than ourselves. And then we start chasing that happiness instead of just resting into it. And that's just a small understanding.
In some ways, or it helps you to realize that you're resourceful before?
Probably. Well, apparently, like we all do what makes most sense to us. So in that moment, or at that time, it made sense to me to do that. And right now, I feel great. So, whatever led up to this, it's good. I did have a fun time. You can imagine all the adventures and like, even though I was scared and insecure all the time, or a lot of the time, I was also having a lot of fun, you know. So it was like an adventure. It was like a roller coaster.
Yeah. And I imagine for men to feel on the edge all the time like this, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it was exciting. I mean, we were like a pack of fucking 11 guys, you know. So,
Yeah, and
so obviously, you know,
yeah.
it's important. Like, you know, it helps to not only be rejected yourself 50 times a day, but have your friends do it as well. The cool thing though is that at like this in like at that conference, and when I realized I started realizing like, okay, I actually, like, we all actually got it. There's no attaining happiness. And then like that sank in more and more over time.
Mm.
And because I had been building my dream lifestyle. And
Mm.
this is like, this fits your theme perfectly, because I had built my dream lifestyle. Like I had some, you know, I made my own money in my own company. I had even had some passive income. You know, I'd found the beautiful, perfect girlfriend.
Mm.
You know, I do this. You know, I travel. I have good friends, and like seemingly the perfect lifestyle.
Mm.
But and I did. I'm not saying that I was unhappy at all. I would say that I was probably above average when it comes to my enjoying life. But at this, like, also I was not, you know, while I was working, I was thinking about other stuff. And while I was doing other stuff, I was thinking about work. So I was never actually like, I wouldn't say never, but like I was rarely present in the moment and having quality time with people around me and myself. So I was
Mm.
always like in the back of my head, always like worrying and overthinking and thinking about work, or, you know, what I should be doing right now instead of what I'm actually doing. Which always, like, if I'm always thinking about what I should do instead of just being in the moment, then that automatically kind of ruins the moment. And that happens in every moment. That there's not like, it's not something that changes just because I get some result that I want.
So
If you're in that mindset, you know, then you're gonna continue to feel like you should do something else. So I
okay.
was like,
Yeah, I think you answered my question. Is like the more you place your success depending on the circumstance, on the results, on having the girls responding to
yeah,
you or not,
yeah,
etc., etc., the more you cultivate a state where you're not really present. Is it what you
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. And and like like relying on e- external circumstances to feel anyway is, it's it's going to work against you, or like anyone, like, or anyone, because if by principle we cannot feel anything outside of ourselves. We're always feeling our thinking, so in the moment. So by principle, if we believe that we can feel, you know, having a successful business, or, you know, whatever, being with a girl, then we're constantly working towards life, because life doesn't work that way. It seems to us, though, that it works that way. It seems 100% real, but in fact, we're not feeling her. We're feeling our experience of her, which is a huge difference. It sounds like a small difference, but it's all the difference. Like Jim Carrey said in his like graduation speech thing, he said, people, or I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines like, people, you know, there's a huge difference between, uh, there's a huge difference in believing that a dog is going to eat you and an actual dog that is going to eat you. it might sound like a joke, but that's like that's the difference. That's the biggest um, I don't know the English word.
Realization.
Anyways, yeah, it's like the
Insight.
yeah, just yeah. Can't find the English word, but hva er skille på engelsk? Ja, men liksom den største skillen. Samme det. Anyways, I don't remember the word, but the point was there though.
Okay.
So what happened is like I had built the perfect lifestyle, but at the same time I was feeling stressed, you know? So I had like the quote unquote success, but I didn't really feel successful. And what happened there is that was huge. When Jamie said that on stage, he said, you already have the answer. And then boom, I knew that I was going to break up with my girlfriend at the time and start a new chapter. I just felt like there was something resonating with that message, that I already know the answer. And it was like something, it was pointing the finger at me instead of pointing the finger outwards. So that was the first.
I'm sure he was pointing to everyone in the room.
Oh yeah. But my insight, you know, my new fresh thought was going like, oh, maybe I should stop trying to change everything outside of myself and then look inside. That was the insight I had for the first time. And after that, you know, I put up a workshop with Jamie, and I had a huge insight a year ago. Which was basically that we're living in the feeling of our thinking, moment to moment to moment, where life is unfolding, and what we perceive is just a thought-generated experience that we both create and also perceive at the same time. So we are not noticing that our thoughts are creating our reality, and then we are experiencing this reality with our senses. So that insight just had me go like, holy moly, like this changes the ball game completely.
How does it change?
It changed in a way that life works inside out. It doesn't work outside in. We can't feel like there's nothing out there that can, by principle, have an actual effect on our feelings. The only thing that has an effect on our feelings is our thinking in the moment. Moment to moment to moment to moment. So what happens then is that after that realization I stop trying to change my circumstances. Obviously, right? Because I'm not feeling my circumstances. So I stopped trying, you know? And once you stop trying, all of a sudden you're being. Trying is always, to me, is the opposite of being. And when I realized that, the implication was apparently that I stopped trying, and then I was just being more. And when I was being more, I was showing up in my life. I was showing up at work. I was showing up with my family. I was showing up with my friends and my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, and with all people. And I could see my lifestyle starting to change for the better in all areas. And it was just like, I can't even describe the new feeling, because now I feel like a kid again. Like, for me, I don't even, you know, I used to care so much about my circumstances, and like, you know, I have to, like, I'm gonna have like a fucking jet, I'm gonna live 7 places around the world, and I'm gonna have all this money, and I'm gonna speak in front of this many people, and I had goals, but I was constantly walking around worrying about them. Now I don't even like have any other goals than what I have in this moment. The goals that I have in my head. I know that if it's important to me, I'll remember it. You know what I mean? I'm just going to do what I do. And when I have a clear mind and I'm present and I'm, you know, then inspiration can come and flow naturally. Because when we're always like ruminating and overthinking and worrying, there's no space for insights and inspiration and motivation and you know, those times where you're just like, oh, let's do that. Yes, let's do that. And then we can do this and this and this and this. Like, I had that last night. We had to record it because, you know, inspiration came, and I just like press record, and then just like continue talking about the idea that I had, and then I'm gonna do it.
Do you
So
catch
that
yourself still thinking of what you want and worrying
yeah,
about something?
every day. Yep.
Mm.
Every day, but like it used to be like this. It used to be like I was on a roller coaster, but every time that the roller coaster went down, I really thought that it was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like a roller coaster, but I know it's a roller coaster, so I can still enjoy the experience and be like scared when it goes down, but I know that it's not dangerous. I don't fear for my life when it goes down. It's more like another metaphor is, watching a movie. When we're watching a movie, we can get into the movie and we can feel sad or happy or angry or frustrated, whatever emotion we can put ourselves in the movie. But at the same time, you know that you're safe in your living room, in your couch, and even though the protagonist dies, you're gonna be okay, So that's like the difference of this. It's like I don't buy into the movie. I still buy into the movie, but I know that it's just a movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have a personal question. I think it's because it's best to work with examples, and it really talks to me at this moment right now. I feel really burnt out. I worked so hard, and now my health is not happy about it, and so I'm gonna check it. And what you're saying is really related to what I realized a few days ago, is that I know why I worked so hard. It's because I was afraid of not matching the goals that I wanted, and so there was all these fears going through. So instead of being super present, as you say, and doing what I can in the moment and accepting that I cannot do everything, I was just worrying, and so I put this energy in. So I'm launching my first e-course online and doing all of this. And at the end, I realized that, wow, that's cool. I set up my own e-course, and now I'm completely burnt out. So what about the success? It's like, I really missed something. And the other
oh my
thing
God,
is
you have
that,
the perfect podcast because you're going through a transition while you're recording it. This is perfect.
Exactly. And so and the other thing is this confusion that I've had and many times in my life, and that I just re-had, and this is the difference between being successful, like from the being, and doing successful, which is okay, I'm gonna do in order to have, and it doesn't work like this. And if we want to be truly fulfilled, as I hear you, it's like I get it again. It's like, yeah, but this is now this moment that I can be really fulfilled. Now, after that, is the question is, okay, so what do I do with my goals? What do I do with wanting to have 20 people in my e-course and not having them?
Yeah.
So how do you match this?
Well, to me, this is crazy because I used to worry a lot about getting things done. Like I have all the getting things done books. I have all the books. Like, and I've had systems. I've been literally writing down every single aspect or every single loose thread in my life. I've been writing down with my colleague in a online software thing, and we ended up in almost 700 different loose threads in our lives. Like imagine like putting down every single thing you ever want to do, in the next like year or whatever.
Okay.
And you're like, I got it all down. And it's like us trying not to think about it, that doesn't work. For me, what works is the realization that we only have this moment. Like I saw this quote the other day, and it went something like, I am in no obligation to be the person I was 5 seconds ago. you know, and that just like reminds me that we only have moments. Like life is unfolding in moments, and and just because of that, there's really no boxes. There's really nothing we have to do. We don't even have a specific personality. We just like keep holding on to something in the moment. Keep holding on the thought of our personality every moment. And all of that just like breaks everything down to like realizing that we're only feeling our thinking in the moment. And that had me drop the idea of needing anything, needing to achieve my goals in order to feel happy. That's a misunderstanding. You know, it's just a tiny misunderstanding. The goals can't make you happy. Just like kids think that a teddy bear can give them security. It does just because they think it does, you know? Or it don't really, but they're playing a trick of the mind and they think it's security, so they they become what they think, if that makes sense. And then
so in this case, do you mean that it's not a good idea to have goals, or it's a good idea to have
no,
goals?
I'm saying
Well,
all I'm saying is that if the teddy bear actually was security, you could glue a lot of teddy bears on your face and feel secure all day, every day, you know? And the same thing goes with goals and visions and having a purpose, or, you know, doing affirmations or anything. I'm not saying it doesn't work, because for me, setting goals work, just a completely different way than I thought it worked. But what happens when you realize this is that you stop trying to do anything else than what feels best in the moment, and then you kind of like go for the feeling, and then what's going to happen, just because we have common sense, like we have this wisdom, we know what we want. We don't have to both know what we want and worry about it. We're going to do what we're going to go in the direction that we have decided, no matter what. So what happens then is that I start working when I want to work, and I start taking breaks when I want to take a break. And in the beginning, it was just like, I'm doing a lot of breaks now. But it was just me recalibrating, because I'd been worrying so much. So my body needed some pause, you know, it needed a break.
Yeah.
And literally a break. It's like drop the entire idea of me needing to do anything. Worst case scenario, I'll end up on the street or in jail for not paying my bills, you know. But I was okay with that, because I know that my feelings are not a reflection of the circumstance. My feelings is just a reflection of my thinking. So if I did end up on the street or in jail, I would still only feel my thinking in the moment, so I'd be fine, you know. And also I knew that probably wouldn't happen, you know. But sometimes looking at the worst case scenario can be comforting in a way, you know.
Yeah.
So what happened is that now I just do what I want, and apparently I want to work sometimes. And when I want to work and work, you know, and this is the coolest thing, is that when you actually want to work, when you actually feel inspired and sit there and you're like almost like, just like super excited and working because you want to work, then you're doing what you want, and you're not working against life. You're with life unfolding. You're like riding the wave of life instead of going the other way, you know. And that then everything becomes more productive. You have a clearer mind. You make better decisions. You're more creative. You work faster, and you're more often in the flow, in the zone, you know. When you're just like getting things done. Yesterday I wrote like a full sales letter in 15 minutes. I just like done. And that was just, I'm not saying I'm fantastic. I'm just saying like that was just the flow working through me. And I think everyone has had that. Either you're playing football, you're playing piano, or just in a conversation, or you're writing something or anything. We've all had that flow feeling that the words either come out of our mouth or through our fingers before we even notice it, almost.
That's
So that's
cool.
what happens more and more when the idea drops. You know, the idea that we can get something from the outside.
So basically, the big shift for you has been to, instead of worrying for the success, worrying for the outside, worrying for dating girl, having success on your business or whatever, it's been moment by moment by moment by moment, and following the inspiration of these moments, and then this moment.
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And now in my mind is like, okay, how do we, it makes a lot of sense, and yet how do we shift from one place to the other? What kind of system in place? What is our responsibility then if we don't care so much about the goals? We have the goals, but we don't care so much about the goals. Okay. It's like,
Yeah. So here's the thing. When I talk about this, people a lot of times while they are listening, they're feeling good, and they're like zoning into, just life unfolding in the moment.
yeah.
And then and then and then I stop, or that sinks in for a while, and then it's finished sinking in, and then we start thinking again, and there's nothing wrong with thinking, but once we start like trying to figure out what we just heard, then we're also feeling our thinking in the moment. So while we are searching for an answer, we are feeling searching for an answer thinking in that moment. So there's really no like getting this, there's really no like figure this out and then do it. It's more like realizing we don't know shit, and realizing that that's fine, realizing that we like resting in the unknown, it's like,
Oh, I like that.
it's like more,
Living
yeah,
in the mystery.
yeah, because then it's like you don't have to figure out if what I say is good for you or not, or you don't have to figure out if how to like apply this to your life. There's no applying here. It's just an understanding, and it's an implication of that understanding. It's going to automatically change how you show up in this world. So,
But I'm sure at this moment, when people listen to this, there is a big group who's just say bullshit. I want to make tons of money, and I want to date the woman of my dream. And another group saying, yeah, it makes sense. I suffered a lot from this system, and I want to go more in this.
Well, to talk to the people who are like saying bullshit, it's, if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to get the girl or whatever, trust me, you might get that, but you're not gonna enjoy it if you think that in itself will make you happy. Because I've achieved a lot of my goals in my life, and I know a ton of people who have, and they all say, like they all just like in their bones know that the goals are not making them happy. Achieving the goals are not making them happy. Achieving a goal can like trick you into believing you're stoked for a while, and that's it. Like you can get stoked for a while. You get a new car, get stoked for a month or 3, but there's no correlation between your core happiness and that car.
So the goal is not to achieve the goal.
Say again?
The goal is not to achieve the goal.
Well, you could say that. Yeah, so it's, it's just
the
like...
goal of happiness or the goal of being successful is not achieving necessarily the goal.
Yeah, I have this. That's funny you said that, because while we were sitting here, I just got retweeted a tweet that I wrote called "Happiness is not getting what you want."
Yeah.
And actually, like, because we fool ourselves into thinking that we want something that we already have. Like when we were kids, we didn't have shit. We had the best time ever, you know? Remember when you were a kid and didn't worry about anything? That's not because you that's not because the external circumstance. It's because you started creating boxes more and more in your life because you knew that you also had responsibility. And then at one point, you know, you if people are, how do I explain this? At one point, the thinking and worrying about responsibility took over for the spark of joy in life. I'm not saying you shouldn't set goals. I'm not saying you shouldn't think and like worry. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying we're always going to do what makes most sense to us in the moment. And that's the only thing we can do. We are going to do the best we can with the information we have and the understanding that we have in every moment. And we cannot do anything else. So why worry about it, you know? It makes no sense to worry about it when you actually think about it. When you actually get this, it's just set all the goals you want, like reach all the goals you want. I do that. I'm fucking do a lot of things. I have this podcast going now. I just got it on News and Noteworthy on iTunes, which I'm stoked about, you know, and I do my website and I travel and I you know, I'm speaking here and there and I'm doing stuff. Just because it makes sense to me. I want to do that. I want to create and I want to be as positive influence as I can and have that, you know, do that, because why not? You know, when you realize that life is just, you know, your thought generated experience anyways, why not make it a party? That's what's happening. Instead of like worrying your way through the world, it's more like going inspired through your life. So yeah.
That's cool. That makes me consider my life at this moment. It's awesome.
That's good.
Yeah, it's
like
awesome.
it's crazy though, because like I've never been this productive in my entire life, and I never felt that I worked as little as I do. I probably spend as much time working now that I did before, but it just feels like it just feels good, you know. I feel inspired, and I literally want to do it. That's the only thing I want to do in that moment. If I change, if my wanting change, if my desire changes in that moment, I will do the thing that I desire instead. But when you know, when you realize that, when you realize what I talk about, then you're just gonna do what you desire. And people are afraid of like not people are afraid of not doing what they do because they think that, oh, maybe I desire something else. That to me is a crazy thought, because if you desire to do something else, then when you realize that and then you do something else, you're gonna have a good time. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you're gonna do what makes most sense to you. You're gonna make sure you're good. You know how to take care of yourself. You're gonna make sure you're good. The only thing is that you're gonna have more fun doing it. And it might be the exact same thing that you're doing right now. You're just gonna enjoy it more because you're not trying to do it when you don't want to do it.
So how do you advise people to go from your old way of thinking to this way of thinking? What is the first step to stop worrying and have all these fears, like all these things in your mind running all the time?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
How do you enter in the flow, as you were talking about?
Yeah,
what is your
that's
method?
the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, it is.
And
I'm
well,
very curious
it's
about
actually
this one. What's your way? I have my way, but apparently it's not working all the time.
it's all it's all in it's all in an understanding. It's all in an insight. When you have those moments, you just get an epiphany, a real breakthrough. Those moments in a split second changes everything. So what I'm talking about is an implication of an understanding. And this understanding is available to anyone at any time. People, like, they were born happy, you know? So all this thinking and worrying and overthinking is just our thought created monsters, which does not really exist. So it's all in an understand. It's what I'm talking about is the results of an understanding. So it's all in the understanding. And, okay, so how do we get the understanding is the $1,000,000 question. Well, there's no application, because an understanding or an insight, it comes to you when you're not trying. It's like, you have ideas in the shower, you have while you walk the dog, or, you're clipping your nails or whatever you do. All of a sudden there's silence and you're just focusing on one thing. And what happens then is that you only have one, you have very few thoughts running through your head. So there's a clear mind, there's space for insights. So that's when insights are going to hit you. And even throughout this conversation, people listening have had insights for sure. Yeah. I can even, just talking to you and me, I can just feel the vibe of this conversation, and it's a good conversation. And that in itself people can drift off in their thoughts and get insights, because I can't give anyone any insights. You can't that either. It's just people get insights from within. That's why it's called an insight. They know their best answer. They have their innate wisdom. They know exactly.
So is it just to start listening or start asking yourself these questions?
Well, again, it's not an application.
Yeah.
But it's the, like, we're gonna always look for an application. But it's in the moments that we forget to look for an application, and all of a sudden we go kaboom, and you're just like, whoa, what happened there? And then after that you start trying to figure out what just happened, and then you're in your thinking again, then you're feeling your thinking, and then you're feeling you're trying to understand thinking, and then you're kind of maybe out of it. But either way, I would explore this more. I would be in this conversation. Like, I'm giving advice now, so if that advice fits for the people listening, do it. If it doesn't fit for you, don't do it. But for me, it works, like, being in this conversation, studying. I do I advise people to listen to my podcast, the New Paradigm podcast. Just search for that on iTunes. And then we have talks like this, and in these talks, people either, they don't even have to listen, they can just be in the conversation and listen to it like you're listening to music. And what's going to happen is you're going to drop in and out of the present moment, and you're going to have insights with, which will change. Everything will change for you at the same time that nothing changes, because nothing changes on the outside, or like your life, it's just, it's weird, because people who have this, I talk to people about this, and they go like, yeah, it's like everything changed, but nothing changed. It's just like, okay. And you start seeing the changes with time.
How do you place meditation with this conversation?
Meditation is cool. Like, so I'm always pointing towards this meditative state, right? This flow that I'm talking about, this zone where you're not thinking that much and you have a clear mind. Another way of putting that is another way of wording that is a meditative state. But people confuse a meditative state and an application. People think that you can do something in order to feel a way. You can't. There's no actual correlation between meditation and a meditative state. I can prove this. If you have 1,000 people and they all meditate, you're gonna have 1,000 different responses. That's a proof that there's no principle, there's no absolute correlation between meditation and a meditative state. That's not to say that a lot of people meditating go into a meditative state, because I know they do. I'm just saying that the source of their feeling when they're in a meditative state does not come from the meditation. It comes from their thinking in the moment. They have very few thoughts on their mind. Their mind is clear, and that's a meditative state. So they're always feeling their thinking, and if they don't have a lot of going on in their head, they're gonna feel empty, or like in a good way, and that's a meditative state. But like, I don't meditate in a traditional way, but I go into a meditative state all the time. I've been in a meditative state 100 times throughout this conversation. It's just words coming out of my mouth, and then me realizing I said it after I said it. It's just the flow, right? The zone. This is a meditative state. But
so it comes to you naturally now.
It comes to us naturally, but like I wouldn't. If people like meditating, then meditate. Like if you feel, it's just like if you like soccer, play soccer, and at the soccer field, you're probably gonna go into a meditative state. Often in the zone, you're gonna be in the zone, and that's what when you play best football.
Well, not if you start worrying about the result again.
There you go. And when you're in the zone, you're not thinking about the results.
Exactly. The thing is to find our own way to be in this meditative state.
Yeah. So we're always gonna do what makes sense to us, like I said. So if people are meditating, then they do that because it makes sense to them. So that's the perfect thing to do for them in that moment. But if you think that meditation will give you a meditative state, that's just a tiny misunderstanding. It might happen that you fall into a meditative state while meditating, but it doesn't come from the meditation. You might think it comes from meditation, and that's fine, but it's still a misunderstanding about how life works by principle. Like this is just proven fact. It doesn't care if you or me believe it. We're always going to feel our thinking in a moment. The best example is when it comes to a principle, that's just how life works. This is not something that I've created as an idea in my head and then walking around saying it's true. This is a principle of life. Like scientists on a very, 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 very advanced level, they know this. And you can just like look it up. This is thousands of people are saying the same thing around the world. Like you have even there was the last podcast I did is a guy named Rudiger. He owns a website called the threeprinciplemovies.com. And he told me about a community in California somewhere where there was like one of the highest percentages of homicides and like crime and da. And there was this guy who started talking about this insight in this community, and it hasn't been a death, like a single homicide since then, and the crime rate has gone down 15%, or I don't remember exactly what he said, but you can listen to it at the podcast, and it just proves that like understanding of life is the ultimate leverage point. Like if you have a conscious understanding about life, and that understanding fits how life actually works, then it just makes sense that your life is going to be more effortless, more in the flow, and easier, and more productive, and more result creating, and all that, because you're not fighting against a principle. If I didn't know how gravity worked, obviously I do by being born, you just know that. You don't have to think about gravity. But if I misunderstood gravity, my life would be very hard, If I thought that I could fly, but I can't fly, I would struggle to get downtown. You know what I'm saying? It would be very hard for me to just live. So same thing goes with the principle of mind, consciousness, and thought. We're feeling or thinking in the moment, and that's a principle. I'm not saying you have to understand it or anything. I'm just saying that's happening. So either you fight against it or you go with it.
That's cool.
You're cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool
Yeah,
because
I
I
love it.
think this is something that at this moment I cannot fully grasp it, honestly.
Yeah.
As you said before, you feel it. Yeah, you feel like
Yeah.
what this guy is talking is cool. And yeah, it feels like it's apropos at this moment. This is a perfect moment for me to hear this, and I'm sure it's a perfect moment for people who listen to this as well. And
That's cool to hear. Very cool to hear.
yeah.
I'm excited to see your progress, and let's catch up.
It's we teach what we need to learn in life, and the title of my e-course is "Success Being the Man You Wish to Be," and I just crashed in this by doing the success you wish to be.
This is beautiful,
when
though.
I'm listening to this, it's like worrying about results and. Yeah, the only thing we can do is doing our best and being our best at each moment, and then the next moment and the next moment. Yeah. So I like what you say, that doing what makes sense for us at each moment, and then it feels like it takes care of itself when we do that.
It does, right? Life takes care of us, or we take care of us in a sense. We know how to take care of ourselves.
So what is our responsibility in this case?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your responsibility is. I don't even know what my responsibility is. But like, we have I'm not saying I'm not a responsible guy. I look at myself as a responsible guy. I just have a set of I prioritize different than I used to do. So the real, like, the important stuff in life, they became more important, and the less important stuff in life became less important. But before, I was confused about what was important in my life. Now it's just super clear to me. So if there's a moment in my life that I have to choose between love and fear, if that makes sense, either an example could be either I could spend the evening with a close friend before he's leaving for a year, or I could go through my finances. So a lot of people would be like, well, going through your finances is the most responsible thing to do. I thought so too, but actually the most responsible thing to do is be present with my best friend who's leaving for a year. And that's the perfect example, because I would rather have that conversation and be there for him and with him and in love than in fear, in the fear-based, just fear for or worry that I someday might lose all my money or end up on the street or jail. So it's just like, and also, I know how to take care of myself. If I trust that, I trust wisdom, I trust my common sense. So I'm probably going to do the finances, as well. Or not. If I don't, then at least I prioritized love in front of fear. And if we can continue doing that throughout our moments, we're going to have a better experience of life. And people might think like, well, then I'm not going to do my finances, and then I'm going to, and then we have to be responsible and worry and worry and worry. And I'm just saying, like, you know how to take care of yourself, you have your common sense, there's going to be a moment where you're inspired to do the finances. And when you do, just because it's right for you, that's the cool thing, is that life kind of gives you motivation and inspiration to do the right things. That's like from your wisdom. So all of a sudden you wake up and you're motivated to do the finances. Like, what? Motivated to do the finances? That makes no sense. And all of a sudden you do the finances with no effortlessly. You do it effortlessly. I this exact thing happened to me. I was doing a workshop with Jamie Smart, and me and Knut, we had to like go through the finances and like who's, you know, split the commission and all that, and we didn't do it for a while, and then all of a sudden the inspiration came to us. We set up a session and it was done in an hour, you know. And I could either walk around worrying about that and not doing it, or try to do it, or spend hours like forcing myself to do it and have a bad experience, or I can realize that we're only having moments, and sooner or later I am going to do it, because I have decided that I am going to do it sooner or later. So it's going to come to me, kind of, and then it's going to be fun doing it.
So does that mean that it's not good to have some rituals, some routines? Like on Monday you do your finance or things like that?
I cannot answer that question for anyone other than me. But for me, it seems that apparently I'm motivated and inspired to have routines. Like today, I set up this session with you early in the morning so I could get up early. And now I know that like my day starts early, like, because I could have slept until 2:00 in the afternoon if I wanted to. I was up late yesterday. You know, I can do whatever I want. So apparently I'm inspired to start the day early, which is a good routine, right? And this is something that I did because I wanted to do it. Not because I felt I have to, because then I'll reach my goals and then I'll be happy. No, I know that I'm born with happiness. But apparently I was inspired and I wanted to wake up early so I can continue creating content and, you know, working on my website, whatever.
Cool. And I'm inspired to stop now this conversation.
Cool.
I think
it's a good
cool.
vibe to stop to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we gained a lot. It's been really amazing. So a few things. You mentioned your podcast, so that's one way to reach what you're doing. The new podcast, is it?
Yeah. So if people want to reach me, I just started a Facebook page that I'm super proud of. It's still small, so I'll notice if someone likes it. So that's facebook.com/MortenHake, and I try to be engaged in that conversation and answer all questions and all that. Other than that, people can find me on MortenHake.com. That's MortenHake.com. And also I have the New Paradigm podcast. So just search for the New Paradigm podcast.
Well, I'll put the links on the.
Yeah, I would love to hear. I love connecting with people, you know, who are resonating with what I say. So if people want to connect, I'm totally available. You know, I love that.
Okay, super cool. Morten, it's been a real pleasure. Exactly, in the French mode.
What's like that was awesome in French?
C'était super. C'était vraiment super.
C'était super.
Exactement.
Exactement.
Presque.
All right.
Okay, Morten. Super cool. And I gained a lot out of it. So thank you as well for this.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
All right. Peace.
Cool.